Good morning, Paul.
Good morning.
How are you today?
I'm doing great.
Awesome. So I'm just going to just make sure that we are live here
'Kay.
before we start. Before we start our awesome chat here, I'm excited to talk to you today because I love Base Camp.
Well, thank you.
For obvious reasons. You guys are just all around awesome. But I think you're the only brewery in Portland, maybe the world, that has a canoe hanging from your ceiling.
There's actually a couple other
breweries
breweries around that do. Yeah, they have
Interesting.
one down at Burnside.
I guess I got to get out more. All right. Well then. All right. Look, that's us.
All right. Hi,
Should be good. All right. We're gonna do this.
All right.
Good morning, everybody. It's Nathan from the Oregon Brewery Running Series here at Base Camp Brewing for another live conversation. Today, I've got Paul Thurston, the co-owner, head brewer, Minnesota Twins fan, which is awesome, for better or worse. As I was talking about, I'm from Minnesota, grew up there, spent a lot of time there, although I'm more of a Cubs fan than a Twins fan. But I'm excited to talk to you today, and today you've already been here for several hours. Today is canning day. Do you want to just jump in and talk about this really quick?
Absolutely.
I think a lot of people are going to be excited about what you've got there.
Fresh off the presses, we've got our new 6-pack 12-ounce cans of our
Look at
S'more
that.
Stout. So we're really stoked to have that in the 12-ounce 6-pack offering.
So great.
Should be out at market towards the end of this week. So we're excited about that.
Did you guys talk about or think about figuring out how to ship it with a marshmallow melted on top?
We haven't figured it out yet, but we're working on it.
Okay, because I think that would be pretty cool. If you don't know, their S'more Stout, when you buy it here, you get a marshmallow that they take a blowtorch to and roast it right there on the can. So
Makes for a good smell in the tap room.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And I was when I was down here the other day, I was watching. You'd think when you melt a marshmallow, you just naturally want to blow on it to get the flame out.
Mm-hmm.
But people probably don't want the bartenders blowing on their thing, so they have to kind of use their hands to get the flame out. So anyway, so today we're talking with Paul. We're gonna just kind of jump into this. And Paul, I'm curious. I've talked to a lot of co-owners and brewery founders and head brewers. I'm curious, was this always your plan in life to become the owner of a brewery? How did you kind of get into this line of work? How did you become the co-owner of a brewery and spend your days doing awesome stuff like putting beer in cans and inventing recipes for new beers?
Yeah, it definitely wasn't the plan. I think it was much more kind of organic than that. I think for most brewers, it kind of just starts out with being something you love to do,
right.
Then just kind of snowballs from there. So for me, it was very much like that. I was into homebrewing in college, didn't know what else to do with my life, so I had to get a job.
The default profession?
Yeah, so
Okay.
I actually went back to kind of a pretty well-regarded, pretty fast, intensive program in brewing with the Siebel Institute and the World Brewers Academy in Chicago and Munich.
Right, okay.
So I spent about half of a year between Chicago and the Dolmans Academy campus outside of Munich, and then came back and got my first job in the industry from there. And then, getting from there to here, it was really just kind of organic, just continuing to follow, the love of beer and see where that took me.
Right, and it's taking you great places. You've been at a few other well-known breweries around the state. Really, you started at Rogue, right?
Yep.
And then over at Bridgeport, and now you're here. All places that we have done runs, by the way. What would you say is some of the things, differences between, huge breweries like that, like those,
Right.
And what are you guys considered here? Are you still a micro?
We're kind of a
micro, like.
Yeah, we definitely are. We're a kind of a medium-sized production facility on the terms of craft beer,
right.
here locally. So we kind of bypassed the brew pub phase where a lot of breweries will just start very small, where they're just distributing in-house. We kind of skipped over that phase and jumped right into being a small to medium-sized production brewery.
And why, out of curiosity, why were you like, let's just get this thing going, let's just jump right in? Or?
Yeah, more or less.
Yeah,
The space, everything just kind of worked out that way. Again, kind of an organic thing.
Sure.
Yeah.
And do you, so that you think about bigger, smaller, do you like maybe the nimbleness that you have here doing your own thing, or is there something to be said for having maybe the resources of a much larger much larger place.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's there's kind of upsides and downsides to both as far as having freedom to do things, because like you said, the big guys have the resources to have a fully staffed pilot brewery that can often just be doing experimental stuff. For us, we have the freedom to expand recipes up to the big system pretty fast if we choose to. And we have our very small pilot system, but it just is a matter of pulling resources from the actual production side to the experimental side. But we definitely value that and make time for that. So I mean, I think that if innovation and being experimental and coming up with new flavors is important to you, no matter the size of the brewery, you can make it happen. Just isn't necessarily important or as important to everybody.
Sure. Well, it's cool here. What would you say? We were at Clabo Fest this year. We had a table, and I think what's so cool about an event like that, and just maybe brewing in general in Portland, is that collaborative feel, and we're going to invent new stuff and make things that are maybe only available for today. How much of that mentality around Clabo Fest, because you've done that 3 years now? Or how much of that goes into the day-to-day here? I'm looking at your tap list over there. When you're creating new beers, how much goes into, let's just make something really unique and exciting versus large mass appeal?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely, kind of first off, it obviously depends a little bit if we're talking about kind of a draft only thing where we can be a little more experimental, or if it's something
going into cans.
So we have to be a little bit safer, with beers that we're trying to distribute more widely and in package format. Right. But yeah, I mean, basically, we kind of pride ourselves on trying to be adventurous in the way we approach brewing and brewing to flavors first and foremost, and whether it winds up in a style guideline or not, that's not really important to us. We kind of try to come up with this kind of thought of a beer flavor in our minds first, and then figure out how to brew that. We've got a great brew staff that's also very very creative minded and help a lot with that. Really for us, it's just a matter of kind of finding things we're excited about and figuring out how to make it work.
How much of the I mentioned this before, but some of the best musicians, they can look at a sheet, some sheet music, and basically know how it sounds. Can you, when you're coming up with recipes, can you look at that on paper and basically know how it's going to taste, or is it always a bit of an unknown of we think it's going to be like this, but you really don't know it till it comes out?
It's kind of somewhere in the middle. I mean, obviously just getting more used to different raw materials, different brewing ingredients, you definitely come up with some degree of understanding of just looking at if you combine these ingredients, you're going to get these things.
A little sweeter, a little chocolatier.
But beer is it's a living product, so it doesn't always behave exactly. I'm talking fermentation now, but doesn't always do exactly what you expect. But you're pretty well in tune with what to expect and how it's going to taste.
Which has got to be part of the fun, is that you just don't.
Absolutely.
You just don't know. You're not working on a assembly line just pushing widgets. It's always different, and
definitely part of the magic.
And I've learned over the time doing this that there's so much science that goes into beer that you kind of have that stereotypical maybe brewer image in your mind, but there's a lot of science. You've got an education in this, but at the same time, there's a lot of art that comes into it too.
Definitely.
How do you describe and sort of reconcile those two seemingly opposite things?
Yeah, I mean, I guess my general stance on art is that it's kind of always part of what you're doing is using the boundaries of reality to describe these, these metaphysical things or whatever.
Interesting, the boundaries of reality.
So I mean, it is very much an art that's bound within a science. But I don't think, in my mind, that doesn't really limit the art side of it. These are kind of just the normal constraints that any medium would deal with.
I guess any artist has their limits of the canvas, the stone, the whatever they're using.
So I mean, there are two different aspects that definitely kind of you need to weigh differently, but I don't think they're mutually exclusive, and at least in brewing.
That's cool. I haven't heard it quite described like that before, but that's cool. Speaking of art and aesthetic, just looking around here, you walk in and your name fits what it looks like. It looks like a base camp. I think the flags out on the tent are supposed to be they look exactly like, not that I've been there, but the Everest Base Camp from what I've seen in films. Tell me a little bit about how you came up with this motif, this theme. And then I've heard it before, but I like to hear it from your mouth the story of the busted up canoe, and all those pictures, which I don't think you can see in the video, but all the pictures behind the bar then are taken from. Is it staff? Like you guys have taken them, most of them?
These are actually not staff, but we have
those
staff pictures up pretty regularly. But these are
okay. Oh yeah, they look
friends
different.
and fans.
Okay. So how did you come up with this kind of theme? And
yeah, so I mean, kind of the original group of us are all just kind of outdoors minded guys. So it kind of just came naturally. As far as what we wanted to kind of center the brand around, and then decorate the tap room around, and then these. Were kind of things that we were able to put together ourselves as well. We built.
Yeah, you build these, right? Mm-hmm. All these tables, which are huge hunks of wood,
of different kinds of wood. Yeah, that we planed down and finished off, and then these are big basalt rocks from a Southern Oregon quarry that one of our co-founders' father was able to source for us, and we drilled them all together. So I think we're in the running for the heaviest bar tables.
Yeah, I was going to say these are not getting stolen.
No, they're not running off
anytime soon.
But yeah, so I mean, really, it's just kind of. Decorating the place along following our passions more or less.
It's cool.
In particular, the outdoors and love of kind of adventure.
It's just cool to see sometimes how the personality of the brewers and the owners and everybody just kind of comes out in the walls and in the decoration, and then obviously in the beer. So what's the story behind the canoe?
So the canoe took a fateful voyage down the Wilson River. 6 or 7 or 8 years ago now, and didn't make it down the trip.
Clearly.
And it spent a couple months at the bottom of the Wilson River, and then when water conditions allowed, we went back in and towed it out and threw it in a garage, and several years later, a good use for it exposed itself.
Yeah, that's
strung it up.
Cool. So a couple of months it sat there. When you went back, did you think it would be there, or were you like, let's just go see, or was it?
I mean, if you can see the canoe, it's not really in stealable shape.
No, it's several huge dents, and
it's not seaworthy anymore. So we thought it would probably still be there.
Okay. Well, it's cool. It looks like it's seen much better days,
but it's good for decoration.
But it's I mean, every review that I've read online about you guys mentions the canoe, so it's definitely part of the space. So. Yeah, and I love how much natural light. I'm just looking around. There's skylights and these huge windows, and it's fun to see that.
Yeah,
all right, so let's switch gears a little bit.
Okay.
You are a brewery after all, so let's talk about beer. One of the things that we like to do here on the Oregon Brewery Running Series show is help people understand kind of what your beer is about, and when you come and do our run here, that you'll at least have a little bit more insight. So we already talked about the S'mores Stout, but I'm curious if what is that? I know it is, but it's a stout with...
Yeah, it's an export strength stout.
Export strength, what does that mean?
A little stronger than an average stout.
Okay.
So the can version is at 7.2% ABV.
Okay.
So it's pretty strong.
What's the non...
It's 7.7 on the bottled version.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. So we're actually moving it to that slightly lower ABV.
Why?
Fully for the cans, just for the can, to be appropriate for the can format. Yep.
Are there restrictions on...
No, it's not about that. Just about the beer we wanted to present in the 6-pack form.
Okay, I guess you usually don't see huge, high ABVs in cans.
Not too often. Yeah.
Okay. And this has a very chocolatey.
So we kind of designed the recipe to try to literally be an homage to the kind of the s'more experience. So we've got some kind of biscuity, bready malts in there for the graham cracker.
Okay.
We've got some dark crystal malts that lend a really nice kind of toffeed sweetness, much like a roasted marshmallow.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the roasted malts have some chocolate character as well. So there's no actual graham cracker, marshmallow, or chocolate in there.
Okay.
But the malt bill in particular was really designed to honor that. There's also some smoked malt in there to give a little bit of the semblance of the campfire itself.
Kind of a scent to it. Yeah. It's. I mean, this is one of my, I don't know if I say favorite beers of all time, but I love darker beers, stouts in general, and this one's amazing. What would this pair well with, or what would you pair it with, food wise?
Yeah, I mean, it goes great
marshmallows,
with,
obviously.
Yeah, it goes great with pretty much any dessert. I think. But it's it does have a low enough terminal gravity to drink well.
Terminal gravity, what is that?
The residual sweetness. So it's not just a dessert beer, is what I mean to say. Can definitely be drank earlier in a meal as well.
Like grilled meats and such?
Yeah,
would that be a good?
I would say kind of red meats, your beef and pork type dishes. I think it would pair really well with a lot of kind of Mexican type dishes. That already have some, especially mole type dishes that have some chocolate flavors to kind of compare there. And possibly with kind of some bitter green salads as well, and the roast could stand up nicely to
like an arugula to kind or kale, maybe something like that. Okay.
And the roast could also stand up, I think, to some more kind of creamy cheeses.
Okay. Is that why you have the you've got 2 food carts? One of them rotates and one is here forever?
They both rotate.
Oh, they both
actually.
do? Okay. I guess I've just never...
Yeah, which is always bittersweet, but that we made that decision early on to just try to keep it fresh.
Okay. And so right now you've got the wood-fired pizza.
Yep.
What's
they're pretty new.
The name of them?
They started last week.
I'm blanking on it. I just walked by there.
Yeah, and I am too.
All right. Well,
they came in last week, and then we have poblano pepper Mexican food
Mexican
as well.
Food, so that'd be a good pairing. All right, and then in this lovely looking bottle here, what is this? The bitter.
So this is a Birra de Mars. This is a spring farmhouse ale, kind of an homage to a French farmhouse ale.
Okay.
And so this is the 4th offering in our fully barrel fermented and conditioned series. So this actually it sees some stainless right at the very end before packaging, but it's on wood for the duration of its primary fermentation and conditioning. There's a lot of barrel aged stuff that typically starts out in stainless steel, and then once it's fermented, goes into a barrel.
Gotcha.
This one was in the barrel all along. And then it's got a couple Saison strains and a Brettanomyces strain, which is a wild yeast that lends some kind of funky tropical notes. So it's a very this one's a really good food pairing beer. All the beers in this series are. And it's a kind of copper orangey hued, hoppy, funky farmhouse ale.
Okay. You guys you have quite a range of beers that you do here, don't you?
We do, yeah. That's kind of speaks to just loving beer and
totally
all sorts of different kinds of beers. And
so, how would you describe, for someone who had no knowledge of Base Camp at all, your elevator pitch of we do these types of beers, or is there no? These types means all beers.
Well, I think for us, it really is kind of trying to tie in the beers to that sense of adventure and kind of going on new flavor adventures with each beer, if you will. So
it's Clabo Fest.
Exactly. I mean, kind of brewing to these, just the same way you would, kind of pick a hike out that you haven't been on.
Sure.
You're anticipating going to this scenic overlook or whatever and taking in the view there. We want to go to this flavor place, this beer flavor place.
That's fun.
And then we'll make the beers to take us there.
Huh. So would you, if you had to do you ever take beer with you when you go hiking?
Absolutely. And that's also a part. We've always been we had aluminum bottles, 22-ounce bottles to start, and then got in the cans. So part of the aluminum format for us is all about that transportability.
That's so cool.
And then
take them out with you then.
Yep. And then these glass. This is a 750 ml wine bottle size, cork and cage finish. So this is designed for your base camp when you get home. But other than that, we're all in aluminum.
I like it. So what's this glass? Is this for me?
It can be, yeah.
I like it. What is it?
So this is another kind of fairly experimental beer of ours. This is a sour cranberry ale fermented. This one is actually fermented exclusively with Brettanomyces, that same wild yeast. Again, lends some kind of funky farmhouse type character to it.
It's only 11:30, but it's almost noon. This is good. I'm actually more into, or just kind of getting into sour beers.
Yeah.
I think it's a totally different take on beers than just the hoppy IPA of Pacific Northwest. So
this is our Bread of Livin', in this case cranberry, but it's a rotating series of sour beers with Brettanomyces. The next one will be plum.
What did you say the name of it? I'm looking up on the
Bread of Livin'.
Bread of Livin'.
Yeah, it's actually. I don't think it's on that board.
Oh, okay, yeah.
We have
I don't even see it. Okay.
Some other beers on the other board.
That's really good.
Thank you.
Wow. Do you have a favorite beer?
No, I mean it varies very much by time of year and mood, and of course, if I just want to have one or if I want to have a couple, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. It's funny. I always ask everybody that question, and it's nobody can answer it. No one can say this is the beer I like, because it's so dependent on, like you said, mood or food or other stuff.
I think these three beers, kind of give a good spread, though. I mean, I do like, kind of more traditional takes. hoppy beers, IPAs. I certainly love drinking those kind of beers, but I really do very drawn into kind of the farmhouse side of the Belgian brewing tradition that both of these beers to some degree represent.
A little bit lighter.
Mm-hmm.
What would you recommend for, I don't know, post 5K run on May 20th at Base Camp? Is there? I guess maybe it'll change by then. It's a couple months.
It'll
out.
change a little bit, yeah.
I guess I'm thinking of when I finish running. Are you a runner, by the way?
I run a little bit for exercise. I do play some sports to stay busy, but I don't run for running's sake too regularly. Maybe several times a month.
Some people are like, why would I run unless I'm being chased? So post physical activity. Is there a beer that you recommend or that you enjoy?
I'd say the Honey Chestnut Pils actually on the board right now. That's actually our beer for Collabo Fest that we did with our friends down at Bear Lake Brewing,
where we also have a run this year. Yep. Okay.
So it's kind of a straightforward German-style Pilsner with the addition of roasted chestnuts that we did here in-house, as well as some local Northwest honey. So it's very bright and refreshing, but there's a little bit of residual honey sweetness that could help reinvigorate the one's tired body.
Yes.
So I think that'd be a great choice.
Little, you got the carbs in there, the rejuvenating. You need that after. Maybe not a 5K, but it's good. It's good for that. Yeah. You're thinking about the chestnuts and that kind of the collaboration. How much does kind of tangential here, but how much does the Portland brewing scene kind of help each other out? Like from my experience, being sort of this outsider with a half a finger inside, it seems extremely collaborative.
Yeah.
And sometimes I wonder, aren't you guys always competitive and trying to steal customers? But it seems like not at all that way.
No, I think the industry as a whole really kind of gets that what is good for the whole scene, and totally. Portland beer or even Oregon beer is going to be good for all of us. So there's a really remarkable degree of tightness and help when it's needed that everybody's willing to do for everybody else, and that's a really really cool and magical thing.
Yeah, it's fun to see, and it kind of I think just speaks to the character of everybody who is in these industries and or in these breweries, and like you said, the industry in general. It's cool too to see how, I don't know, maybe you have a different perspective, but even the larger, more established breweries still tend to have that. I don't know if it's a longing, but just maybe some of the old timers like that. I remember what it was like to be a little bit smaller and someone help you out along the way. I don't know. Is that a thing, or am I just totally misreading some of that?
I think that again, just because of kind of the reason people get into this industry is really thank you. Is really just about loving the product that we're making. So I think it lends itself to that very thing.
Yeah, totally. Well, honestly, that's why we started this whole series. Is it's almost not about the beer or the running. It's about bringing people together to hang out. Which in my life, I think of the two places that happens. Outside of family is through running or some kind of physical activity event, and then sitting around a tap room just like this and hanging out and talking and
that's another.
Enjoying life.
Yeah, absolutely. It's another reason, kind of that thing that drew me to brewing, kind of less tangibly, is kind of that community sense that the public house or the tap room or whatever kind of always serves just as a gathering spot for people to just get together and talk about whatever issues they want to talk about, and that kind of really small scale politics, if just having a day-to-day conversation with your neighbors over a pint is really a part of the allure of craft beer and the service of the pub to the community in general.
Is this a how do I ask this? Would you classify Base Camp as a local neighborhood kind of brewery, tap room, bar, or more of a destination? It seems like both from my perspective.
Yeah,
it's sort of on the outskirts of the Buckman neighborhood and the kind of industrial area. How would you classify it in? Yeah,
I think it's definitely both. I think that kind of as far as the destination thing, that's kind of, we do our best to, represent the brand and the beers, but that's kind of out of our control. But we certainly do try to be involved in the community in as many ways as possible. And we're not in a super dense residential area here, so that limits that a little bit. But
give it a couple of years with all those big kind of apartment building just right over there, a couple more down.
There's some going
up, a few more, which is probably great for you guys. But
it should be good for business, and I think it'll be good for the neighborhood in the long run. absolutely.
Yeah. Speaking of the neighborhood and community and giving back, what are some things that either you do personally or as a brewery you guys do to give back? And I ask because part of our mission is having fun, being active, and giving back. And so 10% of our proceeds go to the Brewshed Alliance, which I believe you guys are a part of, and the Portland Parks Foundation. And I can see you've got an event coming up here next week. Is it the water? What's it called? The water conservation something.
Yeah.
Some water something. I can't see it. I wrote it down.
I'm not sure exactly what it's called either, but yeah, we do a lot of those.
You've got a lot of stuff going on here. So, what is that?
Yeah, I mean, just a couple quick examples, I guess. So we do ongoing. We've done, I think, about a half dozen of these now, but we call them location series beers, and so we'll go to different places throughout the Northwest that kind of inspire us and try to model a beer after that area that either uses native ingredients that aren't normal beer ingredients to that area, or otherwise honors kind of the sight, sounds, and smells and textures of the place.
Very cool.
And then with that beer, what we also do is we find a kind of conservation groups that are working in that area and kind of sponsor one of them through the beer. So we'll advertise a little bit for them on the bottle,
That's so cool.
And then kick down a pretty large chunk of the proceeds of the sales to that organization as well. And we have a lot of groups that come in and do kind of fundraisers or educational things here for the just conservation minded outdoor scene.
Sure.
And yeah, I mean, myself personally, I do a little bit of volunteer work, going up to the Salmonberry River corridor and doing native fish spawning counts
cool.
in an effort to compile some data to kind of affect the way that ODFW and the like treats.
What's ODFW?
The Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife.
Ah, yes, okay.
How they treat their hatchery programs in order to hopefully return a vibrant population of native fish to rivers that it's been on the decline for
that's cool.
For a variety of reasons.
That's
so
good for you. I mean, it's
basically just an excuse to get out and walk around in beautiful areas and wade around rivers and stuff. But, but it does have a side benefit as well.
Totally. If you're going to be volunteering, you may as well do something awesome like that. I was just talking with Marielle from Oregon Wild last week. We did an interview, and she was talking about the salmon. I think it was the Salmon River is one of her favorite places to hike. That's near Portland, easy to get out there for a day trip.
It's a great one, yeah.
Do you have any recommended local hiking spots, kind of, let's say 30 miles, 30, 60 miles outside of the city where you just like to get away? Or
yeah, I mean, quite a few of them. Picking one's kind of the harder part. I mean, it's definitely not a hidden gem, but Dog Mountain is obviously a great one. My wife and I really love that one.
Where's that?
It's on the Washington side of the gorge, just a little bit east of Stevenson.
Oh, okay. Very cool.
Yeah, it's just a kind of a classic gorge hike straight up. It's got a good amount of wildflowers in the spring, but then just a very sweeping panoramic view.
That's fun. I have before kids, we me and my college buddies would do all kinds of hikes and adventures all over the place. And since I moved out here a little over 3 years, I've only done one because those kids, it's kind of tricky. So I'm always looking for personal recommendations of quick, easy hikes as well, but I'll have to add that to my list.
That's a good one. There's
recent places to go.
There's obviously thousands.
There's too many. There's too many. I mean, then if you even an hour plus outside of Portland, you've got unlimited options. This is kind of an amazing state for that, and your brewery really reflects that. Even love the water over there. Every brewery has some sort of water jug, but you guys have. I wish you could see it. It's a keg, I think, right?
Yep, it is. It's just a standard beer keg.
Tapped into a water main and hung up with carabiners and climbing rope, and
you operate a regular beer faucet to get your water as well.
It's pretty cool. The first time I was down here, I was talking with Amanda. I was like, "How do you get this off to refill it?" She's like, "Oh, it's just there's a water."
For the first month or so, it wasn't plumbed, and we actually had to lift that up full with water, every 2 days or something.
That would be tricky.
Quickly realized that that wasn't sustainable.
Yeah, well, it's pretty sweet. So. Well, Paul, thank you so much. I loved chatting with you. And again, don't forget that S'more Stout, oops, this is dripping, is now on, it's just water, now in cans. You can get at, I assume, everywhere you could buy the bottles, right? Fred Meyer
at most chain stores, of course, all specialty bottle shops, typically.
Okay.
And should be all over town.
That's great. And then this was the
Bière de Mars.
Bière de Mars.
Yep, so look out for this one as well as future barrel fermented and conditioned series beers.
And then what was the name of this one again?
Our Bread of Living Cranberry.
Which is delicious, a little sour.
Also an ongoing series. This is currently draft only, but we haven't ruled out future bottlings of that, perhaps.
So stay tuned for that.
Yep.
And join us on May 20th, 2017. We're going to be here running at Base Camp. As always, all of our events, we have 5K fun run. It's untimed, so even if you're not a runner, you can come and join us.
It's good for me.
We're going to go, I think the course is up around Laurelhurst Park and back, which is almost exactly 5.1 miles, which is fun. And we'll have live music and some games and giveaway. And, of course, beer from Base Camp.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to get up now and turn that off. But thanks again, Paul. Appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yep. Thank you. And thanks to everybody.